is Linda Sederberg, and I'm with the Fairbanks Reentry Coalition, and I'm here today to interview Liz Skelly, who has been a friend of mine now for a couple of years, 2 whole years.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about how reentry services make Fairbanks safer and stronger. And I in particular want to talk to Liz about today is about community connections and how the community has helped her to stay out of incarceration.
Oh yeah, so many different avenues in the community have really been nothing but a gift to be able to totally re-gear my life and regroup. Incarceration was inevitable for me because of the path that I had chosen and the way that I chose to gear my life. And then I got the opportunity to participate in the Fairbanks Wellness Court. And that was just nothing but astounding. I was able to get treatment to get my life back on track, and I regained my sobriety and my recovery, which had fallen so far down. They offered me treatment. They offered me a sense of well-being and a sense of belonging. I think that's the hugest thing, is that when you think about being incarcerated for alcoholism and addiction, that wasn't going to offer me the connection. Connection is what you need to overcome alcohol addiction and trauma, and they also offered me that avenue that allowed me to get treatment for the trauma and the connections within the community that lead you to where you can reach out. Alaska Behavioral Health, I was able to get them in my corner, and before you knew it, I had all these different connections. Alaska Fairbanks Wellness Court, you had Alaska Behavioral Health, I had Pacific Rim Counseling, I had private counseling, I had all the different unities of meetings that you can go to. And before you know it, you slowly go from this person who just knows of incarceration to the person that knows they're a person and knows they're worthy and knows that they can become anything they want to become. And I was able to totally retrain myself into a whole new gear of life and work and rebuild my life from somebody who would have just spent time in incarceration to somebody who now is employed in a field that I love, and I get to help people and I give back. And my life is stable, and I wouldn't give it up for the world. But you know what? I wouldn't have been able to do it without the connections in the community that helped me.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things that we talk about in reentry is housing. And so we'll just talk a little bit about that. So when you were part of Wellness Court, you also lived in a woman's sober house. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because that was the stable ground for me. I remember when I went to opt into Fairbanks Wellness Court, I had no stable ground. And all of a sudden, because of community connection, they were like, whoa, hey, maybe you could do this. And I went and I met with the people at the recovery house the day before I opted into Wellness Court, and that was my stabilization. We had peer mentors there. We had independent living specialists. We had other women who were in sobriety that we could walk beside each other, and that was a huge elevation in self-esteem that helped keep you and walking day by day as you grow within yourself. And that was just a key stabilization point for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and now you're in your own apartment.
Yes.
You're married.
Yes.
And you have a job.
I do.
Tell us about your job.
I have worked very hard and sought employment in the field of peer mentorship to give back like the community gave to me. I now have a wonderful job. Yes, I'm employed at the Bridge, and I'm an encampment peer support specialist, where I now get to go out and I get to be a connection, and I get to help people rebuild their lives and rebuild that confidence and that self-esteem and all those things that come with losing yourself, because I know what it's like to lose myself. But I know what it's like to have people and the connections to help you get yourself back. And I love sitting here today saying, I finally got myself back. But I didn't do it alone, and I did it because of the connections in Fairbanks community that were there to support me when I needed it.
Yeah, that's great. So you have been involved in a lot of meaningful work. And I think that's part of your recovery also.
Yes, ma'am.
With the wellness court, is that you needed to give back to the community. And so what are some of the ways that you've done that besides your work?
Oh, well, I have done several things. I run my own worldwide recovery group on Facebook. I run my own wellness court AA meetings 4 nights a week on Messenger. I hit the streets and I serve people with Angels in Motion. And I think above and beyond that, I now go back to Wellness Court every Wednesday when it's in, and I offer myself up to anybody in that program who might be struggling or can need some assistance with learning how to get their time set up right for all their meetings. Or I actually, put out my hand and try to give back to those that gave back to me. And I'm one of those that I'm always looking for ideas and avenues of what I can do to be a connection in a community that helped me get connected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. I remember we were downtown and when we first opened the bridge, and I think you came in and said you were going to work for us back then. And could I help you learn how to write grants?
Yes.
And I don't know how close we are to that dream of yours, but we've come a long way.
We have, and it is just amazing how a little spark. They say a little spark can start a fire, and it can. Just that little ray of hope builds and builds and builds and builds and builds and builds, and it's just amazing how people don't realize that little connection to another connection. It just makes so different in people's world, and that's what I love to do the most when I make connection with people, because I think one avenue that I bring is I am a huge connection of hope, and it's just part of what's in my DNA. It's just part of who I am, and you can't make it go away, and I wouldn't want to. No. But I have walked my own story in life, and I have lived through things in my life that I've been able to overcome. And I'm a big one of saying, if you don't got a little hope, I got some extra for you. And, that can be contagious. And you pass it on, and people keep passing it on. And all we're going to do is make our community a better place. Yeah.
One of our fun memories is that the Community Connections Work Group for the Coalition held a paint night.
Oh, yes.
And and that was a time where you're all supposed to paint the same painting.
Yes.
How did you do on that, Liz?
Oh, wow. Well, I did fantastic if you were looking for a raging sea instead of a barn. And actually, it's better than that. My mother-in-law looked at it and said, "Why did you paint a mop?" So everybody, but you know what? That's what set us apart, and that's what makes us all unique. And I think that's the flair and the twist that I bring to the bridge, is that I have that unique way of connecting with people. Just as like everybody else paints barns, I paint waterfalls that people think is a mop. But I connect with people on a totally different level as well. So I think that's kind of the really unique thing I give to my community, is that I'm able to think outside the box.
Liz, I've kind of looked at your resume a few times, right? And I noticed that you have had some training, and not all of it happened when you were on the outside. Some of it happened when you were on the inside. Can you talk a little bit about what foundation was laid for reentry while you were still incarcerated?
Well, yeah. I took my time in incarceration, and I figured, if I'm going to have this time, let's see what we can do the best with it. And while I was incarcerated, I did start to embark on a paralegal degree. That was important to me. I started the foundation of that, which I finished when I got out. But I also have an associate's degree in religious education, and I have an associate's degree in biblical counseling, all that I received while I was behind bars. And I think that's just a matter of, again, taking a thing that most people would look as a dark time and being able to say that, you know, it's not what happens to you, it's what you do with it. You know, and if that was my time to regroup and focus a direction on my life, then, you know, I was going to make it again. You know, if you can find hope behind bars, you can find hope anywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I am so proud of you.
Thank you.
And that's kind of, I always say that with a little bit of an understanding that you've done all this work. Nobody did it for you. You took advantage of all the opportunities that were offered to you. And nobody could have done that but you. So good work.
Thank you. But I also believe that it was the community that brought the connections to me.
Yeah.
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 Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Anyway.
you for having me.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.